Have you ever heard of the crown prince who was supposed to be king but never was? This isn't just a fairy tale. It's the real tragic story of Crown Prince Sado of Joseon, a tale of immense pressure, fractured family bonds, and a fate so dark it's been whispered about for centuries. Our story begins in 18th century Korea during the prosperous reign of King Yongjo. For years, the king longed for a male heir. When his second son, Prince Sado, was born in 1735, the entire kingdom celebrated. King Yongjo was overjoyed. This was his brilliant, precious son, the future of the Joseon dynasty. From the moment he was born, Sado was showered with attention and affection. The king saw in him a prodigy, a boy so intelligent that he could walk and talk before other children his age. He was officially named Crown Prince at just 1 year old. The expectations were monumental. King Yongjo, a brilliant and notoriously strict ruler, was obsessed with creating the perfect successor. He personally oversaw every aspect of Sado's education. Imagine being a toddler and instead of playing with toys, you're expected to memorize ancient texts and debate politics with seasoned scholars. Sado was brilliant, yes, but he was also a child. He wanted to play, to draw, to explore the world outside the rigid palace walls, but his father saw these interests as frivolous distractions. The king would often scold him publicly, comparing him unfavorably to his long-deceased older brother. This constant criticism, this feeling of never being good enough, started to plant a seed of fear and resentment in the young prince's heart. As Sado grew into a teenager, the pressure cooker of the palace started to take its toll. The relationship with his father, once filled with hope, became strained and terrifying. King Yongjo would summon Sado without warning, grilling him on complex state affairs. Any hesitation, any slight mistake would result in a tirade of verbal abuse in front of the entire court. Sado began to dread his father's presence. He developed a severe anxiety, a stammer, and a deep-seated fear of even the sound of thunder, which reminded him of his father's booming, angry voice. He was trapped. He was the heir to the throne, but he had no power, no voice, and no escape from the man who was both his king and his tormentor. Looking for an escape, Sado began to act out. He started avoiding his official duties, spending his money on lavish parties, and neglecting his studies. These were cries for help, desperate attempts to carve out some small part of his life that he could control. But to King Yongjo, it was just further proof of his son's failure. The more Sado rebelled, the more the king tightened his grip. The court, ever a place of scheming and factions, saw this growing rift and began to take sides. Some whispered in the king's ear, exaggerating Sado's misdeeds, while others tried to protect the tormented prince. The palace became a battlefield of rumors and political maneuvering, with Sado caught right in the middle. His mental health, already fragile, began to crumble under the immense weight of it all. The situation escalated dramatically. Sado's anxiety and paranoia spiraled into erratic and violent behavior. He was known to lash out at palace staff in fits of rage, his actions growing more and more disturbing. He would wander the palace grounds in a daze, sometimes for days, and developed an obsession with clothing, forcing his staff to prepare dozens of outfits only to burn them in a fury if they weren't perfect. This was not the behavior of a future king. It was the tragic decline of a man broken by a lifetime of psychological torment. His wife, Lady Hyejeong, lived in constant fear, documenting the horror in her memoirs, which give us a chilling, first-hand account of Sado's descent. She tried to protect him, to reason with him, but he was too far gone. The breaking point came in the summer of 1762. King Yongjo, convinced by court officials and his own observations that Sado was a danger to the throne and the royal family, made a decision that would forever stain his legacy. He could not execute his own son with a sword, as that would violate ancestral rights and make Sado's own son, the future king, the child of a traitor. So, he devised a horrifying alternative. On a scorching hot day, King Yongjo ordered Crown Prince Sado to climb into a wooden rice chest, a box about 4 feet by 4 feet. The lid was nailed shut. For 8 days, the heir to the throne was trapped inside that cramped, dark box in the palace courtyard. His desperate cries for water and for his father's forgiveness eventually faded into silence. On the 8th day, the chest was opened and Crown Prince Sado was declared dead. He was 27 years old. King Yongjo gave him the posthumous title Seido, meaning thinking of with sorrow, a hauntingly ironic name for a son he had condemned to such a horrific end. But the story doesn't end there. Prince Seido had a son, Yi-san, who was just a boy when his father died. He had witnessed the whole terrible ordeal. King Yongjo, in a strange twist of fate, poured all his attention into this grandson, raising him to be the next king. When Yi-sen ascended the throne as King Jiangzhou, his entire reign became an effort to restore his father's honor. He moved his father's tomb to a place of high honor, commissioned memorials, and worked tirelessly to clear his name. King Jiangzhou became one of Joseon's most beloved and effective rulers, driven by the memory of the father he had lost so tragically. He channeled his personal grief into becoming the great king his father never had the chance to be. The story of Crown Prince Seido is a powerful and heartbreaking lesson about the destructive nature of unchecked power and unrealistic expectations. It shows how even in the highest echelons of society, the need for compassion and understanding can be tragically overlooked. Seido was not born a monster. He was a bright child broken by a system and a father that demanded perfection above all else. His life serves as a timeless reminder of the human cost of ambition and the deep scars left by families torn apart. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into one of Korean history's most tragic tales. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what you think about Seido's story. Was King Yongjo a monster or a father pushed to the absolute limit? I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next video.